Not a day goes by in which we don't hear or read about some heinous crime. You can read about a brutal assault in the morning newspaper and then tune in to the nightly news and hear about some other crazy crime. With mass media picking up on nearly everything, we are bombarded with this type of news. It seems to get worse and worse every day. What's even more terrifying is the number of young people that are making headlines for their acts of evil. Many children are far from the innocent angels that they appear to be. Countless people around the world were stunned to learn that a pair of 10-year-old boys abducted and brutally killed 3-year-old James Bulger back in 1993. What would possess a couple of seemingly normal kids to engage in such a savage act? The fact is that children have been involved in this type of thing throughout history. How many school shootings have we heard of in the last decade or so? Most of them were perpetrated by kids. 50 years ago, it was 11-year-old Mary Bell making headlines. 150 years ago, it was a young boy named Jesse Pomeroy, and back in the 1740s it was a 10-year-old killer named William York. There were a lot before, in between and after those. You can be certain that you will hear about children committing chilling acts of violence in the very near future. Some of those children that you will hear about could be any one of the kids that appear on the following list of the 15 most dangerous kids in the world right now. 15. Christian Fernandez hurt his brother in a fit of rage. Perhaps the scariest thing about this kid is that he is due for release in January of 2018. Happy New Year! We will have a 19-year-old psychopath who killed his 2-year-old half-brother roaming the streets after spending nearly 8 years behind bars. Jacksonville isn't exactly a stranger to horrific murders, but Fernandez became the youngest murder suspect in Duval County's history when he was arrested in 2011. How did he kill his victim? He repeatedly slammed the defenseless kid's head into a bookshelf in a fit of anger. When he saw that his younger half-brother was unresponsive, Fernandez carried the dying boy to his bed. We can only hope that this kid has learned to control his murderous rage. 14. Jordan Brown was super jealous of his father's fiancée. Brown had a hardcore jealous streak which will undoubtedly make you lose sleep. Sure, his crime was horrific, but he was also recently released, which is just as chilling. Jordan Brown is now 6'2" and 18 years old. But he was incarcerated as a pudgy 11-year-old with serious jealousy issues. You see, Jordan didn't like the idea of his father's fiancée being 8.5 months pregnant. He felt that a newborn would be given all of the attention, so he hatched a plan. In 2011, he used the 20-gauge shotgun that his father had given him for Christmas to solve this problem by shooting 26-year-old Kenzie Hauk while she slept. The unborn baby also died as a result. Let's hope that he is rehabilitated. 13. Amardeep Sada scared India with his callous acts. Serial killers are nothing new. They've roamed the earth for ages and will continue to. In some ways, Amardeep Sada wasn't much different from your run-of-the-mill psychopath who gets his kicks from killing young children. In 2007, he allegedly bashed his 6-month-old cousin's head in with a rock or possibly a brick. He then repeated his cruel and heartless deed on his baby sister and then again on his neighbor's kid. There are a couple of truly awful facts about this case. For starters, some neighbors were aware that Sada was responsible for the first 2 deaths, but it was considered a family matter, and not reported. This means that his third victim could have been saved. Perhaps the most chilling fact is that Sada was just 8 years old when he committed these crimes in 2006. 12. Bever brothers wanted to surpass the Columbine shooting. You've probably heard of the Menendez brothers who gained notoriety for their crimes against their parents back in the 1990s. You might not have heard of the Bever brothers though. These 2 gems came from a reclusive family that lived in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Robert Bever was 18 and his younger brother Michael was 16. The boys had 2 younger brothers that were 12 and 7 along with 3 sisters who were 13, 5, and 2. They apparently wanted to do something so terrible that it would outdo the tragic Columbine incident, so they put together a plan. On July 22, 2015, these 2 twisted individuals bludgeoned both of their parents, their 2 younger brothers, and their 5-year-old sister. The 13-year-old sister managed to barely survive the senseless act. At least Robert and Michael left the 2-year-old sister untouched. The good news is that these two monsters will never be set free. 11. Joseph McVeigh didn't like doing chores for his mother. On January 2, 2011, police went to a house near Big Prairie, Ohio after they received a 911 call from a concerned neighbor. Upon arriving, police discovered the lifeless body of a 46-year-old woman who was face down on the floor of her living room. The gunshot wound to her head was a good indicator of the cause of death. But who would do such a thing? It turns out that it was the woman's 10-year-old son, Joseph McVeigh. Well, there must be a good reason, right? According to young Joseph and his 15-year-old sister who witnessed the entire incident, Joseph's mother had asked him to bring in some firewood. He didn't want to. Instead, he went to his room, grabbed his .22 caliber rifle, and shot his mother in the head. Guess he doesn't like being told what to do. 10. Kim Edwards and Lucas Markham were a pair of twisted lovebirds. Here's a 2-for-1 entry that features a totally twisted twosome. Kim Edwards and Lucas Markham were a couple of 15-year-old lovebirds who shocked the United Kingdom in 2016 when they were involved in a gruesome double homicide. What is believed to have started out as a joke escalated into the killing of Kim Edwards' 49-year-old mother and 13-year-old sister. Apparently, little Kim wasn't getting the attention that she thought she deserved from her mother. The pair attacked their victims with a kitchen knife as they slept and then finished them off by smothering them with pillows. After their cold and callous killings, the couple apparently had an intimate moment, took a bath together to wash the blood away, and then watched some Twilight movies. Markham confessed that the only reason they killed Edward's little sister was because he feared that she'd call the police. 9. Will Cornick attacked his teacher in front of the entire classroom. Anne Maguire had dedicated her entire working life to teaching children. At 61 years of age, she was just a few months away from retirement. The other featured character in this tragic tale is Will Cornick, who was a seemingly normal kid on the surface, but things aren't always as they appear. Underneath, the 15-year-old Cornick was harboring a pretty big grudge against his teacher. On April 28, 2014, in front of his entire Spanish class, Cornick attacked Maguire from behind with a knife, as she was leaning over another student's desk. She died of her wounds. The demented student reportedly brought a bottle of whiskey to school to celebrate his cold crime. He also admitted that he had planned to attack 2 other teachers that day. Luckily, he was unable to completely fulfill his fantasy. 8. James Fairweather was apparently possessed by demons. If you ever find yourself face to face with a kid named James Fairweather, then heed this advice: run. Run hard, run far, and run fast. If you don't, then there is a good chance that you will end up on the business end of a long and sharp object. If you don't believe that this 15-year-old killer is one of the most dangerous kids in the world right now, then you should ask his 2 victims. Of course, you can't because they're dead. One of them was a 33-year-old man who was passed out drunk in a park in Essex, England. Fairweather stabbed him for no reason at all. He then stabbed a 31-year-old woman in the eyes. He was apparently actively hunting another victim when police caught him. Naturally, he claims to be possessed and he hears voices. He was sentenced to life in prison. 7. Daniel Bartlam wanted to plan the perfect attack. Daniel Bartlam thought that he could get away with the perfect murder. On April 25, 2011, the then 14-year-old attacked his mother by striking her with a claw hammer. He then proceeded to soak the house with gasoline, placed a bunch of newspapers on a fire, and then left the house before it was engulfed in flames. Daniel originally told police that it was the work of an intruder, but the truth finally came out. Daniel admitted his crimes. The truly scary thing about this whole event is the lack of a sensible motive. It is widely believed that Daniel simply wanted to see if he could get away with murder. He now has at least 16 years to tweak his strategy. 6. Nehemiah Grigo just woke up one day and did away with his family. It's not uncommon for people to commit terrible crimes for no apparent reason. Take Nehemiah Grigo as an example. On January 19, 2013, this 15-year-old kid took a .22 caliber rifle, went into his parents' bedroom, and shot his mother as she slept. When his younger brother came to see what all the commotion was, Nehemiah shot him twice. Next, the young psychopath went to the other room where his 2- and 5-year-old sisters were cowering in the corner, and he shot them as well. He then went to the gun cabinet and took out an AR-15 and waited for his father to return home from work. When his father came through the door a while later, Nehemiah gunned him down too. He was sentenced as a juvenile, meaning hell be free, when he turns 21. That'll be in 2018. 5. Jake Evans was inspired by Rob Zombie's Halloween. Who says that being under the age of 18 is a curse? In the case of Jake Evans, it's a blessing. You see, Jake had a plan to kill his mother and sister who he lived with, and then he was going to go to his grandparents' house and kill them along with his oldest sister. On October 12, 2012, Jake set his evil plan in motion when he shot his mother and sister. Luckily for his grandparents and older sister, Jake called 911 to confess his crimes instead of venturing to his grandparents' house. He claimed to have put the plan together after watching the Rob Zombie remake of the movie Halloween, in which a boy kills his relatives. He avoided the death sentence because he was a minor, but he still got a 45-year sentence. 4. Yarael Milton wanted an easy score from a couple of dealers. 31-year-old Jemimel Ray and 30-year-old Charles Fisher were drug dealers, and on June 29, 2015, they arranged to sell some marijuana. A simple transaction was supposed to take place at a park in Omaha, Nebraska, but the deal turned out to be far from simple. Upon their arrival at Miller Park, the two were ambushed by 3 assailants. Ray was killed when he took bullets to the head and neck, while Fisher was hit in the shoulder and luckily survived. Sure, we hear about this type of thing all the time, but the real shocker is the fact that the assailants were young boys. 12-year-old Yarael Milton, his 17-year-old brother, and a 15-year-old friend had planned to rob the two dealers for an easy score. Seeing that Yarael is a minor, you can sleep easy knowing that he'll be back on the streets soon. 3. William Schultz preyed on the young and weak. William Schultz is deranged and extremely dangerous. There's really no other way to put it. It seems that the 18-year-old William believed that the end of the world was drawing near, and he wanted to knock off a few things on his bucket list. At the top of his list? Well, William wanted to see what it was like to kill another human being. On April 26, 2015, Schultz approached a house, cut the power, and entered. He crept upstairs where 9-year-old Jordan Almgren was sleeping and stabbed the child to death. But why single out Jordan? Schultz reasoned that Jordan was little and weak. He'll have at least 25 years to reconsider his life's goals as he sits in prison waiting for parole. 2. Bobby Woods Jr. wanted to get rid of his girlfriend's pesky kid. It can be said with certainty that not all young people have the ability to think clearly and logically. This is especially true of 17-year-old Bobby Woods Jr. of Lufkin, Texas. Woods lived with his girlfriend and 3-year-old Mason Cutler, who was the son of his girlfriend's brother. Woods' girlfriend was pregnant, and this posed a bit of a problem in Bobby's mind. He felt that their house was too small to accommodate another child. His solution? He took young Mason to a pond behind their house, pushed the toddler into the water, and walked away as the screaming child drowned. A truly heartless act and a terrible solution. Woods admitted that he planned the whole thing. It also turns out that his girlfriend knew what happened, but she was deemed not fit to stand trial. 1. Daquan Sturbeling, Quindaris Burris, and Jace West were bored and needed something to do. When most normal and well-adjusted young teenagers get together, they usually engage in activities that don't involve senseless murder. That wasn't the case in October of 2017 when 3 youths in Baldwin, Mississippi were looking for something to do. Instead of perhaps going to a bowling alley, playing video games, or just harmlessly hanging out, they decided to callously kill a 70-year-old man. Henry Adams Jr.'s was found outside of his house on October 23. Daquan Sturbeling and Quindaris Burris are just 13 years old while Jace West is 14. The dangerous trio have each been charged with capital murder. They might have to stand trial as adults, but they will not face the death penalty due to their ages. While robbery is suspected to be the motive in this senseless killing, police have yet to publicly confirm it.